The first area to make a comeback during the early Middle Ages, this period we've come to sometimes referred to as the Dark Ages, when there are migrations, people still moving about, when the Romans have withdrawn, when no one is in charge, and it's a period of chaos and also to some extent violence. So it's a very disruptive period. The first cultural area to revive is going to be Ireland. And I have two maps up for us to look at. One, again, references the migrations of people continuing to come in, and all of those arrows and lines represent chaos. The other helps us more clearly to see the separate nature of Ireland. It is an island, and because it's an island relatively remote from the disturbances on the continent, it has a chance to revive. It is going to become Christian, and that conversion is going to take place in the 5th century due to the efforts of St. Patrick. So the good news here is that there really was a St. Patrick, and you have an actual reason to drink green beer on St. Patrick's Day. The bad news, perhaps, is that St. Patrick wasn't Irish at all. He was born in England. So he was a member of the church, he was a missionary, and he goes from England to Ireland in order to convert the populace there. He does, however, do a really good job. He is capable of converting the folks in Ireland because he is very liberal. He was trained as a Christian, but he was also trained to allow the local population to blend with Christian teaching. And with this blending, and I'm going to say liberal approach that Patrick was taking, Christianity in this region is going to thrive. And along with it, art also is going to thrive, particularly supported by the monasteries. The Irish are most famous in this period, and it is referred to as a golden age often. The golden age dates roughly 600 to 800 CE. In this period, the Irish are most famous for their metalwork, and their metalwork exceeds everything that's produced anyplace else. As a sample of the high quality of Irish metalwork in the early Middle Ages, I present the Tara brooch. This is not in our book, so you're going to need to know this from the talkie. This is an example of the incredible quality and craftsmanship that the Irish bring to metalwork in this period. It is a piece that was found in the 19th century. It is said to have been found in a box at the mouth of the River Boyne, and if that's true, it would be another example of loot. In other words, something that was stolen back in the day was buried until a later time when the owner could come along and find it. It is an object that in totality, the length of the pin itself, from the tip of the pin to the top of the portion that hooks onto the circle in the brooch, this triangular shape up here, the whole thing is about a foot. So we're dealing with an object that is not large. It is, however, for jewelry, flashy enough to be seen from a distance, and certainly would have been intended to convey the wealth and the status of the owner. This is an example of a cloak pin. It would have been probably part of a pair, so you'd put one on each side of your cloak to help to hold it around your neck. It is also an incredible example of Irish craftsmanship. If you go over here to the slide on the right, you'll actually see how one of these things works. It would, with the shaft of the pin, run through the garment, the fabric, and consequently, in a very migration style way, we would get the head right here of a beastie that would look like it is biting into the fabric that you are wearing. It draws very heavily from migrations traditions in metalwork, and that does include the use of animal symbols or animal imagery. And I can't, again, really give you the critter type this head right here, this beastie type. The museum, I believe, in Dublin is describing it as a fox, and okay, maybe it is, but it is certainly a powerful animal. And in fact, the entire surface of this is powerful and energized. Everything is broken into compartments, and that helps to contain and control the energized decoration. We have a sort of triangular shape over here at the very heart of this, and it's made up of interlace, and I see a spiral that looks to me like an eye, so I'm going to call it animal interlace. Up at the top of the triangular shape, which terminates below, we have a triangle ending with the snout of our beastie, and the corners up above on both sides we have the heads of two birds that kind of come together, melding together to create one. Typical of migration style, every inch of the surface is covered, and originally inlaid here into compartments with metal holding them in place would have been semi-precious stones. The entire surface of the object is energized, but that energy is contained and controlled within compartments. And that's pretty typical of what we would expect. But this, folks, is really good craftsmanship. This is an additional set of slides. Some of these I took this is located in the National Museum, so when you go to Dublin, you should go there and you should take a look at this. We can also see some additional, in this case, birdie heads that are treated in a relatively abstract way. This is the amazing part of the Tara brooch. I've been showing you the front. Well, this is the back. And look what these people are doing. They've actually decorated the back of the object. And in some ways, I think the back might be nicer than the front. No one's going to see this. But every inch of the surface was originally covered. It has gold inlay in portions of it and silver inlay in others. Incredibly small scale, detailed, very fine workmanship, and that's what characterizes Irish metalwork in this period. This, which is the shaft, comes up and there's a ring that hooks around so that the circle form can move freely through it. So we're talking about expert craftsmanship and casting skills when working with fine metals. I would like to point one thing out to you, and that is these. These are Irish spirals, and in this case I think they're triple spirals as well. We've seen these before at Newgrange, and we're going to see them again also. They are a characteristic element of Irish design that's going to be consistent throughout the history of medieval Ireland, and also from Newgrange, of course, earlier as well. This object then kind of sums up what can be achieved in metalwork in this period because of the high level of craftsmanship. It's also in some ways typical in terms of the vocabulary because we have beasties, maybe a fox, maybe another kind of critter, but definitely beasties. We also have some birdies here. In addition to that, we have interlace, we have compartments. Every inch of the surface is filled, and the surface itself is rich, inlaid with semi-precious gems in places, but also certainly with the use of gold and silver, very reflective. Add in the very typical local use of the Irish spiral, and you have a complete repertoire for the metalwork in Ireland. This is particularly important because the metalwork in Ireland is going to pass on its style to manuscript illumination and also to stone carving. In other words, the foundation is in metals and everything else is going to turn and borrow from metalwork.